Murder and Such contains true stories about murders, the macabre, true crime, serial killers, and other dark subject matter. This includes adult themes, explicit language, descriptions of gore, violence, and other information provided by news articles, witness testimony, and public record. Murder and Such is not intended for all audiences, and although warnings will be set in place, listener discretion is still advised.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Murder and Such. I am your host, Hunter. I just want to say I'm sorry for the extended week break that I took, but I thank you for sticking with me, and I hope that you enjoyed my two-part series of Edward Wayne Edwards. That was definitely a very bizarre case to cover, and I hope that you are safe during Thanksgiving here in America. But for housekeeping, I do want to do some Patreon shoutouts. So thank you to the wonderful Miss Michelle Davis for jumping on the Patreon page, as well as Jason W. from the Gremlins and Growlers podcast for getting on the executive producer level. A thank you to Steve Hasey for joining the Patreon. A thank you to Hannah Newman for also joining the Patreon page. And thank you to Tracy Ford for jumping on the executive producer level. And of course, I want to thank Christy Nation for also jumping on my Patreon page. So thank you to all of my new and existing patrons for helping fund the back end of the show. I appreciate it more than you could ever imagine, and if you'd like to join the Patreon page and help fund the back end, it almost sounds like I'm talking about my butt right there, but if you want to get the show early, ad-free, and get a special 30% off all merchandise, feel free to join up at patreon.com/murderandsuch, and you can join for just $1 per episode. Now you might have asked yourself, what do you mean by 30% off merch? Do you have merch now? Well, yes, I do. I partnered with the company TeePublic to finally put out a line of merchandise. It has everything from the old pickle design to Jeff the Raccoon to some brand new designs that have never been available, and I will have some more designs to come. And as of right now, shirts are just $13, and they're available in different sizes, colors, styles, including women's sizes, and there's also hoodies, pillows, wall art, coffee cups, and just about everything else. The sale is going to go up right now, so grab them while you can, and also, when I drop new designs, I will throw them up on the show's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, so please be sure to follow those at Murder and Such. And also, I want to thank all of my wonderful listeners who have dropped a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That has seriously helped me out so much for the last few episodes, and I can't thank you enough. You're all wonderful human beings, and whether you help me out on Patreon, or you share the episodes with your friends, or even if you just take time out of your day to listen to my dumb ass tell you some horrible stories, I thank you. And I appreciate you for letting me into your day. Now, let's get into this episode. This one is going to be very contentious, and I will be talking about different aspects of it, including some maybe guilt and maybe innocence. But in the last few years, I've heard the term quite often, the term being abuse of power. It can mean a variety of things. The core idea is that someone who has power uses it for their own personal benefit. Whether it's a millionaire buying their way out of a lawsuit, or a high-ranking government official using the Department of Justice to make charges go away, with great power comes great responsibility. But with power, there also becomes almost a feeling of entitlement to some. The fact that they've worked their way up to be in a position of power, it means that they can forego someone else's rights to get what they want or need. usually by any means necessary. People like Jeffrey Epstein, a billionaire playboy who used his power to gain leverage over the owner of Victoria's Secret and also used his money to get a slap on the wrists for extremely disturbing sexual assault charges against a minor back in 2008. More recently, he had allegedly hung himself in his jail cell while waiting for trial for being the kingpin of child trafficking and rape. A man of power who just couldn't have life as it was, and he wanted to make more and more victims out of children, the most vulnerable of victims in practically any case. How Epstein hung himself is completely beyond me, as it seems that there was a gravity to him being murdered in prison rather than him taking his own life. But he had everything that you could imagine. He had money, fame, fortune, power, and he had fooled the system once before, so what would stop him from doing it again? Was it the power hunger or blatant narcissism? We may never know. Then there's people like Harvey Weinstein using their power to sexually assault and rape women because they're so powerful is another huge testimony to power hunger. Or even those who have the money and think that
and when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
Ugh. But where does one decide to cross the line and abuse their power? Not only that, but how does one determine who or what their victims will be? Would it be someone of the same or opposite sex? Would it be someone with a power higher than theirs? Or would it be the ones that you're sworn to protect and serve? That's what I'm going to be covering on this episode. But as always, my name is Hunter, and you're listening to Murder and Such, and this is episode 75, Daniel Holtzclaw. A warning before starting this episode. This episode will contain explicit details of sexual assault, rape, forcible entry, groping, masturbation, and sodomy. This episode is not intended for children or those sensitive to such matters. As I usually do with episodes with such a strong context of crimes, I will be providing outlets and resources during the episode to find the help that you may need. I thank you for listening, but you have been warned. Daniel Ken Holtzclaw was born on December 10th of 1986 to a man named Eric Holtzclaw and his mother, Kumiko, who is of Japanese descent. One thing of note is that Daniel was a big kid. His father wasn't the largest guy in the world, and considering with Daniel being half Japanese, his huge stature of 6'2" and hard muscular build made him a prime linebacker for the Enid High School in Enid, Oklahoma. He later went on to attend Eastern Michigan University, playing a linebacker at college on a full-ride scholarship, and later graduated in 2010 with a degree in criminal justice. Somewhat noteworthy because his father was actually a lieutenant with the Enid Police Department, so he wanted to keep rank with his father and also with his mother, who was also a police officer, and become an officer himself. But that was just his contingency plan. Considering that he had the high school record of 25 tackles in a single game while he attended, he wanted to get himself drafted into the NFL to play football professionally. But that had never happened, unfortunately, which kind of stands out as Eastern Michigan University had stated that his record was 437 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 7 passes deflected. He was one hell of an athlete, but the draft hadn't turned out the way that he wanted, so he returned to Oklahoma and started working towards becoming a police officer within the Oklahoma Police Department shortly thereafter. A man of justice, a man who wanted to make his community just a little bit better. Instead of chasing a wide receiver with a football, he wanted to start chasing criminals with a warrant. As I've stated on the show, I'm a firm believer in supporting law enforcement, but judging each officer on an individual basis. But with Dan, it seemed that although his football career was going to be taking a back seat, he would be following in his parents' footsteps. During his college time, he excelled in all aspects of his learning and secured his degree, but he started using supplements as well. He was noted saying that he wasn't taking steroids, and to a degree, I can see him being truthful. But he was taking testosterone and other supplements which can have an incredibly adverse side effect on someone's brain. If you think back to my 2-part series on Tim Lambesis, you'd know that taking things that he took can not only make you bulk up in size, but can also degrade your mental stability, cloud your judgment, and spearhead someone's anger and rage to levels never thought possible. But as you might wonder, what did this guy do? Did he beat somebody to death? My answer would be no. As much as a travesty as it would be to pull a Derek Chauvin and choke someone to death, this wasn't his form of gluttony. He was one that was much darker and sinister, and is still just as violent as if he did bash someone's head against the pavement. But that doesn't come for a little while longer. But for now, I'm going to take a small break and play some ads so I can buy my cat Vincent some more cat treats. I will be right back. And we're back. So, despite Daniel not being drafted by the NFL, he never really had any spite towards the league. He still wanted to do his job as an Oklahoma City police officer, and from what I could tell, he did it very well. There wasn't really anything noteworthy as far as achievements or the like, but it seemed like he cared a lot about the work that he did and was executing his duties as any normal, run-of-the-mill officer would do. But whereas he took an oath to protect people's rights and uphold the Constitution, there were some very dark parts of Daniel's life that weren't brought to the forefront. First of all, like I said before, the supplement usage. Similar to Tim Lambesis, he wanted to become not just strong, but super tanked. He was using pre-workout, performance enhancements, and testosterone. As I mentioned earlier, the addition of testosterone can mess with your chemical balance of your brain, cloud your judgment, and make you do things that you wouldn't normally even think about doing. Your body and brain are finely tuned machines. Think of it like an expensive timepiece or a watch. Every little cogwheel has a function and a purpose. But if you take one of those cogwheels out or you grind a tooth down on one wheel, things start going awry. Sure, it may work for a little bit, but if you grind 2 teeth out, then it becomes harder and harder to function. A little bit can go a long way when it comes to the brain and abusing substances, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or other mind-altering or performance-enhancing substances. If you're not careful, you can either become addicted or dangerous. But the difference between Tim and Daniel is not one that is particularly violent to the point of murder, but it seemed like Daniel's was much more of a sexual nature. And that's going to bring us to the beginning of Daniel's 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. patrol on June 18th of 2014.
But I'm going to do this and he may walk in here in a minute and get this done. Now, I know you're an officer, and I know you've seen these 1,000 times and you've read them yourself.
Right.
You still ask me any questions if you have one.
Right.
Okay, don't be embarrassed of that.
Right.
Okay?
I think I'm already embarrassed.
Why are you embarrassed? Tell me why you're embarrassed.
The station deal, so.
Nobody. Well, I mean, there's rumors flying. I know. And we tried to do that as kind of quietly as we could. And that's why we took you up the front and stuff. But this is going to make the rumors go away.
Okay.
Okay? For you.
Right.
The voices you're hearing are that of 2 separate people. The woman's voice you heard is Detective Kim Davis, advocate and sexual crime investigator with the Oklahoma City Police Department. With over 20 years on the force, she was a seasoned veteran in sex crime cases and investigations of them. But she knew that this interview wouldn't be your typical run-of-the-mill investigation, considering that she would be questioning one of her own. The other voice that you're hearing is that of Daniel Holtzclaw. It continues.
The rumor tomorrow is going to be on somebody else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So let's get them off of you and get them onto somebody else and get this over with.
Okay.
Okay? All right. You have the right to remain silent. You understand that? Okay. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that? You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him or her present with you while you're being questioned. You understand that? If you cannot afford to hire an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish one. If you decide to make a statement, you may stop the interview at any time. Do you understand each of these rights I've explained to you?
I do.
Just write yes or I do or whatever right there. Oh, you're lefty too. Okay, hold on.
You probably heard the door open during that audio clip, and that was actually Rocky Gregory, a partner of Detective Kim Davis and working with her on the same case. As I said, this wasn't your, and I hate using this term, run-of-the-mill sexual assault and rape case, but when you're doing an internal investigation, you're definitely taking the utmost care and caution with the evidence and carefully articulating your questions to see if someone's storyline adds up with the others. But after being Mirandized by Officer Davis and waiving his right to an attorney, the questioning begins. There are some jokes between the three of them, but Daniel is sitting cornered in the back of the room. His large stature fills up practically the entire space between the desk and the wall, and where the front of the chair is and the back of the wall. He is a very large man.
Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to me and us at this time without an attorney
Yes.
present? Okay, right, yes, right there. Read this out loud.
I've read the statement of my rights and understand what my rights are. I am willing to make a statement and answer questions at this time. I do not want an attorney present at this time. Understand and know that what I'm doing, no promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or force of any kind has been used against me.
Agree?
Agree.
Sign, print.
Now here is something that I honestly don't know how I feel about it, because he waives his right to an attorney. He lets them have questions. He even signs a piece of paper, and as you heard, he read that he fully understood everything that was going on. As an officer, usually you give somebody the Miranda rights, and somebody who may or may not be guilty will usually ask for an attorney. With Daniel, he essentially said, I don't need an attorney, which, kids, let me tell you something. If you're ever pulled over or you're being suspected of a crime, you always have an attorney present when you're being questioned. So the fact that he doesn't have an attorney was very telling to me. And this is where I kind of have a little bit of a question of whether or not he did this. But as for what he did, I'll let them tell the story.
Okay, look, just like we talked in the car. You haven't heard any rumors?
I haven't heard any rumors.
So
when I walked in the station, I see Captain leaned over. Not unusual. Captain Clifton, hey. But then I've seen you in the cabin. I've never seen you. And so...
Well, nobody.
But I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
So just like anything.
You had said, and we told you that there was a traffic stop,
Right.
that somebody made some allegations against an officer.
Right.
They don't know the officer's name, none of that. And you said that you made a traffic stop after work, but you didn't call it in.
I didn't call it.
Where was that?
It was about Northeast 50th and Lincoln, just to the west.
Okay. Tell me about that stop.
The allegation in question is that when Daniel left work that night and was on his way home, he had pulled over a car that was swerving. The person inside the car was a 57-year-old African-American woman by the name of Janie Liggins. After doing a small investigation and checking of her car and finding some prescription pills, Daniel was said to have forced her to give him oral sex. He put his hands on his car, unzipped his zipper, pulled out his penis, and told her, "Hurry up, this shouldn't take very long." Now you may ask yourself, did he run her plates? Did he run her name? Did he follow protocol? And considering he was on his way home, he thought the protocol would not be the best measure to do. He just saw a swerving car and wanted to pull them over to see if there was anything awry. This is one thing that would definitely come back to bite him in the ass. But the second part of that bite to the ass is the fact that his squad car that he is taking back to his apartment is GPS located at all times. The interview continues.
I was going westbound on Northeast 50th, probably a block just east of Lincoln. I see a red Grand Prix or Grand Am in my right lane, in the outside lane. I'm in the inside lane. The car swerves, and so at the time I'm thinking, okay, it's probably a drunk person, or maybe he got excited because they saw a cop. So I kind of fall behind it, kind of drifting just a little bit, not crossing lane lines, nothing crazy. So I lighted up because at first the traffic violation I saw at first when it swerved. And that was just west of Northeast 50th in Lincoln. And then made contact. It was a black female. Asked for license insurance. Stated that she didn't have insurance. Gave me an ID. At the time I'm like, do you have a valid insurance or a valid license? She said no. I told her, I just got off work. I mean, what's the deal? You know, why are you swerving? And she says, I'm just trying to go home to Ann Arbor-ish on the northwest side to see your daughter or something like that. So I asked, is there anything on board as far as the vehicle? Is it okay if I search your vehicle and whatnot? She said, the only thing that's inside there is a Kool-Aid cup. I'm like, is there anything inside of that Kool-Aid? Is there liquor or anything inside that Kool-Aid? She's no. I'm like, okay, is there anything else inside there? She says there's pills. I'm like, is that the only thing? And then, so I said, can I have permission to search your car? She says, yes. I go inside the car, I see a lot of pills. But,
what kind of pills?
I didn't really.
Like scattered pills or in a bottle?
She said it was hydrocodone pills, but I just quickly looked at it, and I think I saw her name on the prescription bottle, so I didn't.
Oh, so it was a bottle.
Right.
Okay.
There were several bottles in her purse. And then, so at that time, I just returned back to her. It's like, okay, I saw your pills. I didn't see any alcohol. I sniffed the drink, didn't smell any alcohol in the Kool-Aid. I'm like, okay, I'm just off work. I'm tired. Get your license taken care of. Just mine.
So she didn't have a driver's license?
She didn't have a driver's license, and I was just like, go to DPS, Department of Public Safety on King, get that taken care of, and cut her loose after that.
At 12:51 a.m. that morning, Jenny Liggins went to the Oklahoma City Police Department and filed a complaint against Daniel Holtzclaw. This is what she said in her written statement. Quote, I was going down 50th past Kelly. I noticed car lights on the side of me. As he got a little close, I noticed it was the police. He got behind me. As I passed the lights on Lincoln, he turned his lights on. I pulled over at the building by 50th and Lincoln. He stopped behind me and got out of his car and came to my car. My window wouldn't go down, so I opened my door. He said, I see where you were swerving. Have you been drinking? I told him, no sir, I don't drink. He told me to get out of my car. I was following him. He said, are you sure you haven't been drinking? I said, no sir, I don't drink. He asked if there was alcohol in my cup in my car, and I said, no sir, it's Kool-Aid. He said, if it's alcohol, I'm going to arrest you. I said, you can taste it for yourself, it's only Kool-Aid. He then had me walk to his car. He had me put my hands on his car and spread my legs and began searching me. He asked, do you have any illegal drugs on you? I said, no sir. He checked my pockets. He then told me to sit in his car. He opened the back door and I got in. Then he said, "Are you sure there isn't anything illegal in your car? Because if there is, I'm taking you to jail." I said, "No, sir." He shut the car door. He then went to my car, the driver's side. He then looked for a minute, then he came back and opened the door. He asked, "How do I know you don't have anything in your bra?" I told him I didn't. I asked if he wanted me to raise my shirt. He said, "Yes." I raised my shirt up to my bra, and he took his flashlight and shined it on my chest. Then he took his hands to his private parts and started messing with it. I put my shirt down. Then he asked if anything was in my pants. He wanted me to pull my pants down. I told him I couldn't do that. I put my pants down to my knees. I kept my panties on. Then I put my pants back on. A car pulled up to the parking lot, but then left. When the car left, he unzipped his pants and pulled his penis out. I was sitting in the car with my feet outside the car. He said, "Damn girl, you got a big booty." When his penis is out, I turned to the side and I said, "Please, you can't do this." I was afraid he was going to kill me. I looked and saw he was blonde-headed. He said, "Come on, I don't have all night. I just got off work. I want to go home. I'm tired." Another car drove by and didn't stop. But that's when he held his penis in his hand, and it was hard. He put his penis to my face and said, "Come on, or I'll take you to jail." I leaned down and put his penis in my mouth like a second. I thought he was going to shoot me. I was scared. I was frantic. I could see the gun on his side. Then he told me, "Come on, just a minute, then I promise I'll let you go." So I put it in my mouth for 10 seconds. Then he moved back. Then I got up and went to my car. I kept saying, "Thank you, sir." I was begging for my life. When I got to my car, he said, "I'm going to follow you to your daughter's house." I was in my car. He went so fast. He was gone. Then I got on my phone and drove to my daughter's house. End quote. This statement was given when Janine was actually taken to the hospital and given a rape kit. They did a swab of her mouth to see if they could find any trace evidence or DNA that could link them to Daniel Holtzclaw. But there's a question of whether or not this could have actually happened, because in her written statement, she said that the officer was blonde. Daniel had black hair, and it was very short. But the reason why she was pulled over and forced to be orally sodomized, it really makes you question whether or not her story is true or not, because if she didn't have a license and didn't have insurance on her vehicle and was not going to be taken to jail, why would she want to target an officer as some kind of retribution for letting her off the hook when she could have been taken to jail? The interrogation continues.
Okay. Then where'd you go?
I went straight home.
Okay. Do you remember her name? It was on the prescription.
I don't.
Okay. Do you make traffic stops normally after work?
I don't, but in that case, I saw her swerve and whatnot, so
I mean, me, I don't.
Felt.
After I get off work.
I know. I mean, people can't say that as have a, whatnot to have the vision, whatever. But I felt like I needed to make that traffic stop.
Okay. How was she? Was she respectful? Was she?
She felt like she was nervous and whatnot, and I'm like, "Why are you nervous?" And she was even crying. I'm like, "Why are you crying? Why are you nervous? Whatnot?" And she's just like, "I don't know. I'm just nervous because you're a cop and I got pulled over." I'm like, "Nothing you had to be nervous about." And I told her, I'm like, "I don't really want to take you to jail for no SDL or anything. I just got off work. I'm tired." So with my officer courtesy or whatnot, and said I'd go get that taken care of tomorrow. Let her on her way.
And you don't have to. I'm not going to sit here and go, "Why didn't you take her to die?"
That's the reason why.
No, I don't care.
From Daniel's account, it seemed like a pretty routine traffic stop. The issues, though, is he doesn't have his computer on. He is kind of checked out for the night, And those things kind of do come up because he's not following proper protocol. As far as Janny's statement of him being blonde, I can't say for sure whether or not he actually was, but when you're sitting in a cop car and the lights are going, it's gonna illuminate things that probably shouldn't be illuminated. As far as someone with dark hair could look brighter as the lights are reflecting off of it. Not to mention it's also 2 p.m. at night, and Janny also did say that she had smoked 2 joints of marijuana earlier that night, and she was tired and wanted to go home. She did also admit to taking some Tylenol PM, and she fell asleep briefly before she got into her car and went home. Can't say for sure if that had anything to do with the blonde hair statement, but this is something that the defense team later goes on to recant as evidence of it not being Daniel.
And then you searched, did you run her through Unit 800?
I didn't.
You didn't. Mm-hmm. So, did you run her on your MDT?
No, I didn't. All my stuff as far as that, because I didn't call it in and say it was a traffic stop, my computer was off and everything as well.
Did you shut it off?
I just shut it off,
work?
yeah. On the way, on 50th, I turned it off right before the traffic stop, basically.
Okay.
The interrogation later goes on to start talking about the physical contact between Janny and Daniel.
When you put her in your car, did you pat search her?
When I came here, I was like, lift up your shirt. Is there anything on you? Anything as far as your waistband or anything like that? She said no. And then I put her in the vehicle and went from there.
Did your hands go on her at all?
I backhanded her on as far as the side.
Where on her body? Tell me. You backhanded
her waist, and the back portion. I didn't touch her butt or anything, but the back portion of the waist. And then she lifted it up like right here, and there's nothing.
Did she lift it up like this?
No.
Okay. So she never, like, went, ooh, nothing,
No.
Exposed her breasts or anything like that?
She asked me if I was like, no, it's okay.
She asked you?
If you want to search me, I'm like, no, it's okay.
So she never, like, put her hands on the car and you...
No.
Okay. Where was she positioned or standing when you did the back of your hand on her?
Probably the front right fender of my patrol vehicle.
But was she facing you or was she turned?
No, she was facing away from me.
And you just kind of did it like this?
Yeah, back there, yes.
Okay. Did your hand go on her butt or anything?
No, that's not what I'm saying. It was the hip, the side, not the butt section.
What about right here?
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't.
They can tuck a gun
That's
right here.
why I asked to lift it up.
Oh, so she just kind of showed you her belly?
Right.
Okay.
So with Janny's account of what had happened and her being sexually assaulted, the time, the location, and everything is matching up with the GPS that's on Daniel's police cruiser. The fact that he didn't run her name through the database, the fact that he had her standing and put her hands on his car when he searched her, and everything else, it's all kind of adding up with his story to what she claims had happened to her. Remember the part where she said that Daniel had actually followed her? The questioning continues.
Okay. Then, when you went back to her, what happened?
When I went back to her, I was like, okay, I didn't smell any alcohol on your car and your juice thing. And I'm like, what's the deal? Are you really drunk or not? And she's like, no, I'm just trying to go back home. And at that time, I was like, okay, but I'll go ahead and follow you. I said, I'm not going to take you to jail. I'm tired. I'm not going to take you to jail. I'll go and follow you. And let's go back to 44. And you head westbound on 44. So that's what we did.
Did you follow her?
Actually, when I went behind her and we got in the car, she took forever and I started getting annoyed. So I just U-turned it and I went ahead and I saw her in the back view of my rearview mirror. And she was following on 44, but then I took off going northbound on Broadway Extension while she took 44 to go west.
So you were able to see her do that?
Yes.
And go. And then did you lose her when you got on Broadway?
When I went to northbound on Broadway and she went 44 west.
Okay.
Quote, when I got to my car, he said, I'm going to follow you to your daughter's house. I was in my car. He went so fast, he was gone. Then I got my phone and drove to my daughter's house. End quote. So another part of his story compared to hers that is also matching up. It's not looking too good for Daniel right now.
All right. Well, it sounds like this is the lady, I mean, this is the deal where she's the complaining party. Okay. And she's making some sexual allegations, obviously, because sex crimes is working it.
Right. What'd she say?
Well, was there anything, an accidental touch, anything?
If she thought it when I pass searched her, but it was nothing as far as I felt like I would do anything as far as sexual or anything like that. For my safety, I just checked to see if the weapons or anything.
And
to make clear, I didn't touch her butt, but the waist side and whatnot. If you would like me to do it, just for me to show you.
No, and I'm fine with it, and you have every right to do that.
Right.
She's saying that you made her lift up her shirt, and when she lifted up her shirt, she exposed her breasts.
No.
Did you ever see
I asked her, is there anything inside your bra? And she said no. So I was like, okay. And she said, you want me to show you? And that's all the time I said, no, you don't need to do that.
She said she said she was doing this. When you said, is there anything inside your bra? And she was going, no, I don't have anything like that. Did she do that?
Yeah, she did, but I didn't look or anything like that.
Right.
And then she was like, do you want me to show you? I was like, no.
She said when she said, do you want me to show you? You said, yeah, and she went,
woo. No, I didn't.
But could she have been, woo, flashing you? And now you don't want to tell me because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble?
No, when I told her no, I said no.
Then she didn't go, yeah,
No.
because sometimes drunk girls are
having a good time.
Yeah, and partying down. And let's face it,
I've already heard stories about officers
people
and
want,
whatnot.
they
so
want officers for hubbies or whatever.
I said no.
But you could have said no. But I'm asking you if she flashed you anyways.
I didn't see her. I didn't see her
no
breasts.
boobies?
I didn't see her breasts.
Now, I'm not going to lie. This is a lot of interrogation audio, but a lot of this audio was used as evidence against Daniel. The audio itself runs over 2 hours, but this is only about 20 minutes into the interview, and that's when Kim Davis asks the question that we're all wondering.
Why do you think she's making this up?
I don't know.
Did you write her a ticket?
I didn't. I let her go. And actually, I said I won't even arrest you for your no STL.
Trying to figure out why she'd say that. I mean, I could see her saying it if you wrote her a ticket because she's pissed off.
Right.
Daniel later goes on to admit that the traffic stop lasted about 15 minutes. He described that searching the car took about 5 minutes, and then he spent about 10 minutes with the victim. To be honest, it's been a long time since I've gotten pulled over by the police, but 5 minutes searching the car, understandable. You want to check the nooks, the crannies, under the seat, everything else. But 10 minutes with somebody that you're not writing a ticket to, you're not running their driver's license, their plates, or anything on your computer, it makes somebody wonder why, if you were just going to pull them over, search their car, it would take 15 minutes, especially with your own admission of the search only taking 5 minutes. It does seem a little suspect. But it's been about a half an hour, so I'm gonna take a small ad break, go give my cat some treats, and I will be right back. You want some treats, dude? You want some treats, dude? And I'm back, and Vincent says thank you for the treats. So getting back to the case, Detective Rocky Gregory tells Daniel that they need to do a buccal swab. A buccal swab is a mouth test where they do the swab of the inside of the mouth to get a good DNA profile of somebody. The same kind of swab that they used with the Janny Liggins. After he consents and has the mouth swab done, then Rocky starts telling him exactly why they want his DNA.
Well, Daniel, this is kind of one of the things that we kind of bring it in here to see how truthful you are.
Right.
Now, you need to kind of think of a few different things here. Okay. We pulled up a lot of video around that area after these allegations. Okay. She also had a SANE exam, which you know what that consists of.
Right.
There's a reason why we wanted your buckles. Okay. Now, I mean, we can go through a couple different things of why we've got you in here, but You sure there's nothing you want to?
Nothing.
So if we go off the video and watch that,
right,
you're still going to stick with your story?
Yes, sir.
If we go off DNA?
DNA as well.
Should we show you the video?
Yes.
You do want to see it?
Yes.
So there's nothing that...
Everything that I recall of that night is what was asked and everything. That's what happened.
So with Daniel's admission of what had happened during that traffic stop, that's when Kim Davis asks the real question.
Have I maybe not asked enough questions?
I think everything covered as far as that.
Do you recall putting your penis in her mouth?
I don't.
Would you recall that if you did it?
If I did it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you really, in all honesty, you need to really double think about this. I mean, I got to be honest with you. It doesn't look really good. Okay. I mean, in what you originally thought, detectives just don't roll up in there for no reason.
Right.
Okay. And we just didn't pick you out. Okay.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole lineup there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But there's definitely enough here to bring you in here to start questioning you.
Right.
Okay. We knew you were on that stop.
Right.
We knew you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And we can watch a whole lot of actions being performed while you were there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's why she was trying to give you every out on the whole booby thing.
Right.
Okay. Now, is there any reason at all, even from whatever angle, because, you know, it takes a little bit to clear up those videos.
Right.
But any reason why your penis would be out?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Or did your penis go in her mouth?
No, it did not.
Okay. Because DNA will clear it up. And here's the deal, too. We can fall on the sword.
Okay.
And say I screwed up or something. But if we say we didn't do it, and then the DNA comes back and says he did it, then we have a huge problem.
Right.
We're here to give you the chance to fall on the sword, so we don't want a huge problem. We don't want a huge problem for you.
Right.
Obviously, the investigators are trying to get something out of him. They're trying to get him to confess. I mean, you have to put yourself in these investigators' state of mind. They have a written statement by Janny that says that she was pulled over by this officer, and his GPS lines up, and their stories are remarkably similar, aside from him being blonde. Again, I don't know what made her think that, but it seems like they have their guy, and with them saying that they had video evidence of it, they're trying to get one of their own to confess before they possibly have to be either fired or brought to justice for it. I think that the investigators are trying to help him out in a way. Maybe there's something that they can do if he did do it, but it doesn't sound like they're buying his story. Kim Davis keeps driving the points home, in which she goes on to say,
Sir, I'm sticking with my story.
Okay. On the video, are we going to see her boobies?
Shouldn't see her boobs. I didn't see her boobs.
Okay. Are we going to see her pull her pants down?
I didn't see her pull her pants down.
Okay. Are we going to see your penis out?
Nope.
Are we going to see your penis go in her mouth?
No.
Are we going to get any DNA to that?
No.
After being unable to get Daniel to admit to, well, practically everything that wasn't of his own admission, they decide to switch gears a bit and bring up somebody else from Daniel's past.
Let's switch up for a second. You had another girl, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You probably not necessarily going to remember the name, but her name is Terry Morris, okay? Black female. Supposedly you promised her a ride to the city rescue mission. This ring a bell?
No.
You did a traffic stop with her She thought you ran her for warrants. Clicking. Drove her around.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Her name doesn't, I don't recall a name like that.
She's claiming the same thing. The exact same thing.
Now getting to the Terry Morris case. On May 24th of 2014, at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, an officer was called to a Valero gas station off of Northeast 23rd and Kelly for a domestic dispute. The rest of this is going to be coming from an official police report. Quote, Officer Thomas asked her, "What's going on?" Terry stated, "I've been raped." She told him that about 5 or 6 days ago. She had said that it was a Tuesday or Wednesday. Terry went on to state that she had been raped by an officer. Terry advised that she had just left a drug rehab, but didn't say a name. It was downtown Oklahoma City. She was trying to get to the city rescue mission. An unknown officer stopped her en route and ran her for warrants. When he was done, he told her to get out of the car. She got out of the back seat. She was told to face the car and unzip her pants. She asked him why. He told her, "Do what I say or go to jail." Then he told her to suck his dick. She then sat down in the back seat of the patrol car back driver's side. He took his penis out of his pants. It was erect, and he had placed his penis in her mouth for a short period of time. The officer pulled his penis out of her mouth. He then puts his penis up and close to the door on her. He tells her that he would give her a ride to the city rescue mission. They drive around, and he drops her off at an unknown alley in downtown Oklahoma City. I then asked several detailed questions to everything Terry said. Officer Thomas was adamant that she said the location was where she was stopped, him running her, and the assault that was 2 blocks from the city rescue mission. She was very consistent in telling her story. Officer Thomas advised that maybe he believes her story. Terry advised that she was a prostitute. They ran her that night, and she came back as clear. We covered the story again. She was walking 2 blocks from the mission from an unknown rehab center downtown Oklahoma City. She was sober then because she just got out of the rehab center. When he stopped her, it was unclear if he had searched her or not. She sat in the back seat, and he supposedly ran her for warrants. When he got out again and opened the back driver's seat door, he tells her to get out and unzip her pants. She did unzip her pants, but he doesn't molest her. He tells her to take down her pants, and she tells him no. She was faced away from him. Terry then asks for a female officer, thinking she is going to get searched. The officer then gives her an ultimatum, saying she can go to jail or do it his way. The officer did not recall or was unclear on how she was turned around. Terry turned around and sat down in the same seat. The officer takes his penis out. It was unclear if the officer had a gun on his belt or not. It was not asked or recalled. He took his penis out, what was believed to be through his unzipped pants. The officer places his penis inside of her mouth. This is just for a short period of time. He takes his penis out and has her get in so he can shut the door. The officer tells her that he will take her to the mission, as he was stated actually earlier before. He drives her around for an unknown amount of time, then drops her off somewhere downtown Oklahoma City in an alley. He lets her out without saying anything more. She didn't recall where it was or where she went. Terry left on foot, quote, northbound, was the only thing they were able to obtain from her. It was unknown on the amount of time from the original contact, through the assault, and where she was let out of the car in an alley. There was no vaginal penetration with his penis. There was no vaginal penetration by instrument. He did not finger her vagina. There was no anal penetration, no condom used. There was oral on the suspect only. It was unknown how long the oral sex was. No oral sex on the victim by the suspect. I asked her if her breasts were exposed. She stated no. End quote. And there is a very lengthy police report on the incident as Terry described. Either way, Daniel, they had found, his GPS location and everything else had lined up with her story. That's why Rocky Gregory is bringing this up to his attention. You would think that somebody who is accusing you of forced oral rape, forced oral penetration, would remember the name of the person who's accusing them of a crime that they didn't commit. I think the name Terry Morris would be burned into Daniel's brain at this time.
And here again, for whatever reason, things are pointing at you again.
Right.
Now, this was before even this incident this morning. Traffic stop, not locked in, all that stuff.
This morning?
No, this has been a little bit ago.
Okay.
This was here just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay. Anything?
Do
you remember stopping?
I don't recall a name of Terry Moore.
Well, I wouldn't remember a name.
How about black female downtown, city rescue mission? That's what I was trying to jog your memory.
I haven't been to a city rescue mission.
I didn't say you made it there.
Have you promised anybody a ride to the city rescue mission?
I haven't asked anyone to ask me to city rescue mission.
No, she didn't have to ask you. Did you offer to take anybody to the city rescue mission?
No, I don't offer anyone because I don't like going there.
To me, as it stands right now with you listening to this audio, I am torn. And you might ask me, why would you necessarily be torn about something like this? Because a lot of this is adding up. It's almost the same circumstances, the same form of rape, and it's the same person with almost the same MO. But Daniel, it just seems like he's kind of pleading ignorance, or he just doesn't remember if he would do this to somebody. Not to mention, it's a very short time span from a couple weeks until this happened again. But I will admit that this is not the only allegations that came against him. Before I get to the other allegations, I'm going to continue with some of the interview, specifically when it comes to Daniel and the subject of sex.
When you went home, was anybody home?
My girlfriend was home.
Did you live with her?
Huh? No, she didn't. She just stayed.
Did you get laid?
Messed around, yeah.
What's messed around? Sex?
I guess.
We were all adults.
We almost had sex, and she was tired.
What'd you do? So
my penis went around her vagina, and then maybe went a little bit in, and then she pushed me off and said, "No, we don't want it. I'm tired." I was like, "Okay."
That's kind of mean to let it get that far and then stop.
So
that's when you got home?
That's when I got home.
With Kim saying that that's kind of mean, no means no, and if he got denied, so be it. That's what consent is all about. But then, this is the part where I think that the supplements that he's taking plays a little bit more into how his body has changed over time. Because Rocky starts asking him questions about sexual activity and masturbation.
How often do you have sex?
About once a day, if that.
You guys have sex once a day?
Yeah.
How old are you?
27.
Well, yeah.
How much you jerk off?
Maybe once a day.
So you have sex once a day and masturbate once a day?
Yeah.
What'd you do when you got shot down at home today? Usually you got to relieve that.
Right.
I know.
That was before work. That happened before work.
You masturbated before work?
Yeah.
Did you just go roll over and go to sleep when she didn't give you any?
Yeah.
You ever been accused of anything like this before?
I haven't.
Not in Michigan?
No. I have not.
You weren't one of those football players.
I wasn't. I was not.
After a little bit of time, the investigators leave the room and go and see what the other forensic investigators are doing. They're actually checking his car for any DNA samples, and they tell Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory that they have found pubic hair inside of Daniel's car. Why there would be pubic hair inside of his car? I can't really say for sure. From what it seems with Daniel is he has a lot of sex and masturbation. Even at 27 years old, having sex every single day and masturbating every single day is excessive to an extent. But again, when it comes to the testosterone, that is also feeding his sex drive. So the fact that he's taking testosterone and he is masturbating and having sex once a day, he definitely has somewhat of a very high sexual drive. But after they come back into the room, they tell Daniel that they found pubic hairs inside of his car. They asked him why he would have them or if they are his, and he denies having anything to do with the hairs that are being found in his vehicle.
Did your pants come unzipped, unbuttoned, anything while you were standing right there?
No.
CSI is processing your car right now.
Right.
And when we stepped out, they found some pubic hairs right in here. Could they be yours?
No, that's not. I didn't pull my penis out. I didn't do anything right there.
Did she?
No.
But do you think they could be?
No, it's not. No. Nothing of mine.
Your pubes couldn't be?
No.
Right there?
No.
Has your penis ever been out by your car?
While I'm working? No.
Not working?
No.
Have you ever had sex in the backseat of your car?
I have not.
Because, I mean, some people do. You know, I mean, I'm not saying forced sex, consensual sex.
Right.
So your penis has never been in your backseat?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible any of this DNA shares?
No. It's not. That's, I would like to go at it. Not my DNA.
Are those pubes going to be yours?
No. No.
They later go on to start asking Daniel about his sexual history with other partners. They ask him how old his girlfriend is, and he says that she is 25 years old. They ask if he has a specific type of woman regarding race. They ask him if he's ever had sex with any African American women, and he says that he has, but it was back in high school. They ask him if he has any preference when it comes to age, and he says that the oldest woman that he had slept with was 29, which is a very stark contrast to the 57-year-old Janie Liggins, who is making a formal complaint against Daniel. A little while after that, Kim starts asking him about reasons of why she would want to file a complaint if what she is stating had never happened. Then she brings up the matter of his service pistol.
Why would she make... Because when a woman says something like this and they go through a sane exam and they get... You didn't give her a ticket, so she's not getting out of a ticket. You didn't arrest her, because we get those when they go to jail. I've been raped, and have to work those stupid things because they think they're going to get out of jail.
Right.
Why in the world would she make this up?
I don't know. She was cooperative. She was nervous, like I said earlier, crying. I told her I'm not worried about no state driver's license. I wasn't making... She
said she was crying.
Yeah, and I don't... You know, at times as an officer, you might make a threat to be like, oh, I'm going to take you to jail. But let's try to get you some way to get in the car or something, you know, if I can get or something. But that wasn't the case. I wasn't threatening her. I wasn't... Did
she ever ask you if you were going to shoot her?
She did. She was talking about a pistol all the time and talking about guns and whatnot. And I'm like, calm down. I'm like, I'm not going to shoot you or anything like that.
Did she think you were going to shoot her?
Maybe. I'm like, what? And I even asked her, I think I asked her, what's the deal with you and cops? Do you have a bad run-in with a cop? That was it.
So you had to tell her,
I was like, calm down.
Did you ever say, I promise I'll let you go?
I did. I said, I promise I'll let you go. I'm not worried about no state driver's license. Is there anything inside that car?
Did you tell her you were going to follow her home?
I did. But then when she took forever to turn around, I got annoyed and I was like, screw it, let's go. But I saw in the rearview mirror, and I saw her take 44 when I went northbound on Broadway.
Again, we have parts of her story and his story and how they're matching up. So trying to think on the behalf of Kim and Rocky, everything that she is saying, he is confirming everything except for the forced oral sodomy. I can understand how they're maybe getting frustrated at this point, because it does seem like they have the right guy. Not to mention, it is not the first time he is being accused of sexually assaulting a citizen. So you're kind of running out of options at this point of how do we get him to tell the truth. I think that for his best interest, he should have had a lawyer present. But again, going off of two separate people's testimony and everything matching up the way it is, with not to mention no motive of why she would want to accuse him of sexually assaulting her when she wasn't facing any backlash as far as any legal consequences. But I don't know, it's very troubling. Kim later goes on to ask him again if the pubic hair is going to be his, and he says, no, there's no way that those pubic hairs are his. Later during questioning, Daniel kind of says something that's a little strange, specifically regarding Janie Liggins' breasts.
Nothing else.
But when she was standing, did she try to pull her pants down?
No.
Did she do, you said she kind of did like this. Did she ever do anything down here?
No. Because at that time, when she asked me, do you want me to show you? I was like, no, I'm good.
She did ask if...
Yeah.
What'd she say?
I said, no, I'm good.
When was that? Where was everybody then?
I think that was in the car.
Okay, I don't think you said that last time.
I think I did. Yeah.
Maybe you did, and maybe I just missed it. So she was in the car and said, do you want me to show you?
Once she did the shake thing, and she's like, you want me to show you? I was like, no.
Show you what?
Just as, I guess she's trying to mean as far as just to boom or something, if anything's in her bra or anything like that.
But that was after you already had her lift up her shirt a little bit.
Because that was at the front right fender.
Okay. And like I said, I may have missed that or got confused. We've talked about a lot. So she asked you when she's sitting in your car, do you want me to show you?
Right.
And you said no. Did she attempt it?
No.
That was something that he did not mention when he was talking previously about the search and her exposing herself. He never mentioned once that she asked if he wanted to see anything. I'm not saying he's changing his story, but that's kind of a big thing that you don't want to leave out. You would specifically remember that. After some small banter back and forth, Kim and Rocky leave the room, and then they come back roughly 10 minutes later. And the first thing that Rocky starts asking Daniel is the whole thing with Terry Morris that happened back on May 8th of that year. He reminds Daniel that he was the officer that stopped her, who ran her name through the system, and the GPS coordinates perfectly line up with what she said in her story. But then about 14 minutes of talking had passed, talking about his pre-workouts, all the supplements he's taking, and how they're finding a lot of correlations between the two women's stories, and even what Daniel is admitting himself. Rocky then returns to the room and asks Daniel if those are the same pants that he wore last night while on duty. Daniel says that it is, and then he informs them that he will need to take them for DNA samples. Daniel completely cooperates with the investigation and says that they can have whatever they want. Rocky then leaves the room and comes back roughly 4 minutes later and asks Daniel who was home when he got home, in which he said it was his girlfriend. So they get his girlfriend's information from him, and they leave the room again for another 4 minutes. When Kim comes back, she is not too happy with what she had found out. Here's that audio.
You created some more work. We were fixing to go. I just talked to Carrie.
Okay.
She said she was asleep when you got home and you did not try to have sex, and you did not have sex.
Did try to have sex.
She says you didn't. And I asked her, could you have been asleep? And you kind of, whoa, no. And she said no. You did not try to have sex.
As much as I don't want to involve her, I tried to have sex with her and she was asleep. Carrie goes to sleep pretty early. I'm 9, 10 at the late.
Okay, but she would know if you tried. I'm a woman.
I know.
And my husband comes home in the middle of the night and I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been asleep. You said you twirled around her vagina.
I did.
And you put it in a little bit and then she said, I'm tired. No.
I did.
She would remember that to tell me.
Shoot. Maybe.
She said you did not try to have sex.
And it's more personal because it's Carrie, but I did try to have sex with Carrie. I did.
I don't know what to say. I mean, because it just looks like I just caught you in a lie. And now I don't know what to believe.
I'm telling you.
I don't know what to believe.
Okay.
Because you tell me this, I go to verify it. She tells me the opposite, and now I'm wondering what you're telling the truth about.
Maybe because she doesn't know what the heck's going on.
No, she doesn't. I didn't tell her.
And I'm glad, but detectives calling her, any other officer asking her a question like that.
I know.
She may be scared. And I don't want to involve her, but
she's involved
that's
because
my girlfriend. That's like
you need her involved for you.
Right.
But now she's given the story that you're not given.
I'm telling you, I tried to have sex with Carrie, my girlfriend.
She is going to remember your weenie twirling around her hoo-ha. You remember that. I'm sorry, I don't care how much of a sleeper you are. You remember because it pisses you off in the middle of the night and you go, are you serious? Don't bother me with that.
Maybe you should call her and ask her if she's a deep sleeper. Because there's multiple times I've tried to do that. Multiple times we've had sex. Multiple times she has pushed me off.
You told me that you have sex every day, and she says you did not have sex today.
We didn't have sex today. No. We didn't.
Well, you said you have sex every day.
Mostly every day, yes.
So if I call her back, is she going to tell me that you'll have sex every day?
We did not have sex, but recently, mostly every day, yeah.
I'm a woman and I know what it feels like to be woke up for sex, and I don't like that. And you remember it, and I don't believe you.
I'm telling you the truth. I'm sorry. I tried to have sex with my girlfriend. I did.
Oh, you're a dude. Does your wife get pissed off if you try to wake her up in the middle of the night?
She had white thong on and a t-shirt.
Okay, you talk to him. I'm gonna go call her again. Because right now, I don't believe it.
Hey, the pants.
You want me to bring them in?
Yeah.
In a plastic bag?
Yeah.
I mean a brown paper sack. Okay, don't start yet.
You heard Kim leave the room. She goes and grabs a pair of shorts and a shirt for Daniel to wear because they are going to take his entire uniform for DNA samples, so they can either confirm that he is the person who did this to Janny Liggins or acquit him of the accusations. When she comes back in with a brown paper bag and the shorts and shirt, she asks him again if he tried to have sex with his girlfriend. He confirms that he did, and she leaves the room again as he strips down and gives over his entire uniform. He then knocks on the door and asks Rocky if he can call his girlfriend, and he said it's basically not a problem. The following audio is his phone call to his girlfriend on his cell phone.
Hey, baby. Babe. I need to tell you what's going on. It's crazy. I said, I'm basically on my way home, and I'd like to talk to you. What's going on? It's crazy. Yeah, they gotta give me a ride. So I don't know, probably like 10, 15 minutes. So I get 15, around there. I don't know, 15, 20, 30 minutes around there. Yes. I don't know. I gotta tell you, it's crazy. It just, That's nuts. I gotta. So, I love you, okay? I love you.
After he hangs up the phone with his girlfriend, his supervisor and Rocky come back into the room, and they tell Daniel that he is going to be put on administrative leave with pay. They check in all of his belongings that he had on him. They also ask him if he has any service weapons, in which he says he does have a shotgun, and they say that they are going to be taking all of his stuff from him until this investigation is over. At this point, Daniel is still a free man. He is still a police officer. He still is being accused of sexual assault. But what he doesn't know is that Kim is doing her due diligence behind the scenes, and she is looking at every single aspect of anybody who he could have come in contact with. Because the demographic of the women that he stopped were underprivileged African American females. To Kim's surprise, he has pulled over and ran the names of many underprivileged African American females. So she starts investigating the women themselves and seeing if there was anything out of line that could have happened from this officer. What she found out is something incredibly disturbing. Although I'm not the biggest fan of using this source, but the following information is pulled directly from Daniel Holtzclaw's Wikipedia page. It reads, "Eventually, the police investigation brought together 13 women who were willing to testify. Published records did not include information on possible further women who were not willing to testify. The earliest incident discovered was from December 20th of 2013, where a woman said she had been arrested for drug possession, was hospitalized, and was forced to give oral sex while she was handcuffed to a hospital bed. She said that he made sexual advances to her on several occasions after she was released from jail. The woman said that she was led to believe she would be released if she performed oral sex on Holtzclaw. Quote, I didn't think that no one would believe me. End quote, she testified at the hearing. Quote, I feel like all police work together, end quote. On February 27th of 2014, Holtzclaw allegedly pulled up to a woman who was sitting in a parked car outside of her house. He fondled the woman's breasts and told her, quote, I'm not going to take you to jail, just play by my rules, end quote. She said he returned to her home repeatedly and broke into it once. At his trial, she said she did not notify the police because she did not believe that anyone would believe her because, quote, I'm a black female. Now, the following allegations and dates are also from the Wikipedia page, and they include March 14th of 2014. Holtzclaw stopped a woman who was walking to a friend's house, asked her whether she was in possession of any drugs, and forced her to expose her breasts. April 24th of 2014. Holtzclaw stopped a woman who was engaging in sex work. He drove her home, and when they arrived, he forced her to perform oral sex and then raped her. April 25th of 2014. Holtzclaw pulled a woman over, saying he was going to take her to detox in jail. He instead drove her to a field and raped her again, leaving her there after he was done. May 7th, 2014. Holtzclaw stopped a woman while she walked to her cousin's house. After finding out she had some warrants, he forced her to perform oral sex and then raped her behind an abandoned school. May 8th of 2014. According to an investigator, quote, a woman known in court documents as TM, which is Terry Morris, reported that an unidentified officer forced her to perform oral sex after he found a crack pipe in her purse. Although she filed a police report later in the month, no connection was made to Holtzclaw at the time. May 21st of 2014. Holtzclaw drove a woman to a secluded area and gave her an ultimatum, sex or jail. She performed oral sex on him, and then he raped her. In an interview, the woman said that she first thought that it was a cruel joke or some kind of hidden camera show, until she realized that he was serious. She said she, quote, had been jailed many times before and knew the math. A 15-minute ride downtown, 2 hours to be booked up, up to a day of waiting to move to a cell, hearings drawn out over weeks or months, end quote, and then decided to give in to his demands, which she figured would only take about 6 minutes. May 26th of 2014. Holtzclaw stopped a woman and touched her breasts and put his hand in her pants. The woman said she did not tell the police because she didn't think that she would be believed. June 17th of 2014. And I know this sounds terrible, but I really want you to pay attention to this one. You should be paying attention to all of them. But according to an investigator, quote, a 17-year-old female is first stopped by Holtzclaw when he arrives to investigate a verbal dispute between two of her friends. Later, he tracks her down while she is walking home and threatens to arrest her for an outstanding warrant and then takes her to her mother's house. He then forces her to perform oral sex and then have intercourse with him on an enclosed porch, end quote. June 18th, 2014. Around 2 o'clock a.m., Holtzclaw had an encounter with a 57-year-old grandmother, Janie Liggins, who would ultimately be the one to spark the investigation. The final sexual incident occurred on the same day as the encounter reported by Liggins. November of 2014. In November, 3 more victims came forward, bringing the total to 13. Previously unidentified DNA which had been found on Holtzclaw's pants was found to match that of a 17-year-old girl who had come forward regarding the June 17th incident. Another woman said when she was walking on May 22nd, when Holtzclaw stopped her to check for warrants. When he found there were no warrants out for her, he told her that he would jail her if she didn't have sex with him, and then forced her to perform oral sex and raped her. A third woman said that he told her he was going to bring her to detox, but instead brought her to an isolated area and raped her. 10 more counts, including first-degree rape, second-degree rape by instrumentation, forcible oral sodomy, and sexual battery, were filed against Holtzclaw, who was still on paid leave. So all of these allegations are extremely troublesome for Daniel. Not to mention, all of these women are giving the coordinates of where this had happened. The vast majority of them had either drug issues, or they were living in impoverished communities, and all of them are African American females. And it really does say something, because when you're going up against the law, usually the law wins. So I can understand how somebody would be hesitant to want to go to the police and tell them that, hey, another police officer, somebody of your own career path, has raped me, has forced me to perform oral sex, or taken me behind an abandoned school and raped me. None of this is okay. And it really shows how hesitant women are to come forward. There are far too many women in not just America, but the world, who have been sexually degraded, sexually assaulted, who have been raped, either by family members, complete strangers, or even somebody of the law. Again, I will reiterate that you can support law enforcement. You can support what they do to keep our communities safe. And you can also hold them to a higher standard. You can judge people on an individual basis. If something were to happen at my house, I would call the police. I'm not going to lie about that. But not every officer is Daniel Holtzclaw. And not every officer is corrupt. From the looks of it, there is a lot of evidence pointing towards Daniel being this person, being this sexual predator, being this monster, this fucking despicable human being. But there's a lot of evidence that comes out a little bit later that points to maybe he wasn't the person who did this. But for victims of sexual assault, it is... I can't quite put it into words how psychologically, emotionally, and physically damaging it is for somebody to have their body violated by another human being. I believe that men and women can be raped, can be sexually assaulted, and can suffer from that. There is a website called RAIN, and it's the National Sexual Assault Telephone Hotline. It's also a website that has a live chat, and it has consultations and training and all the sources you may need if you are a victim of sexual assault, because this should never happen to anybody. Everybody's body is their own sacred temple, and it should never be violated by some monster or somebody who's just trying to get a temporary fix for their own disgusting needs. You are worth much more than what somebody would degrade you to. Now, if you need help, you can call their hotline at 1-800-656-4673 or 1-800-656-HOPE. And they will actually direct you to a local RAIN affiliate program that's based on the first 6 digits of your cell phone number. And sometimes if you need to enter your current zip code to get help wherever you may be, you can do that as well. And calling the National Sexual Assault Hotline gives you access to a range of free services that include confidential support from a trained staff member, support finding a local health facility that is trained to care for survivors of sexual assault and offer services like sexual assault forensic exams. They can help find someone to help you walk through what had happened. They have local resources that can assist with your next steps toward healing and recovery. They can give you referrals to long-term support in your area, information about the laws in your community, and basic information about medical concerns. And it is free and it is confidential. So if you need that resource or you know somebody who may need it, just keep in mind the website is RAINN.com. And they have a live chat, and also the phone number is 1-800-656-4673. I genuinely hope that you don't have to use it, but I'm glad that there are programs out there for the people who do need it. But I'm going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with the end of the Daniel Holtzclaw episode. And welcome back, and this will be the conclusion of the Daniel Holtzclaw episode. Now, his case kind of goes quiet for about 2 months, but then, on August 21st of 2014, he was charged with 16 counts, and eventually 36 counts of sexual abuse offenses, including rape in the first and second degree, sexual battery, procuring lewd exhibition, stalking, and forcible oral sodomy. This took the Oklahoma City news stations by complete surprise, and it was a very high-profile case. Now, he wouldn't be fired from the police department until January of 2015, and after a few extensions, the prosecutors and the defense had their cases in front of them, and the trial began on November 2nd of 2015, facing all 36 charges. Now, there was a lot of controversy when it came to the jury pool selection. It was 12 jurors, being 8 men and 4 women, and all of them were white. The local NAACP chapter was actually pretty upset due to the fact that they did have the opportunity to have 3 African American males on the jury pool, but that was later rejected for reasons unknown. When it came to the trial itself, they used Daniel's pants as evidence against him, showing that he actually had contact with one of these women. But where you would think that maybe there was a DNA swab that was done that would link him to the forcible oral sodomy of Janie Liggins, that wasn't actually the case. The jury was told that they had found vaginal fluid from 17-year-old Adara Gardner. But this actually wasn't the case. They found skin samples and not vaginal fluid. It's pretty easy to tell somebody that I found vaginal fluid, which would indeed mean that there was intercourse at one point in time, but they were skin flakes. A lot of people are pointing to this actually being whether or not he had searched her, in which you do make bodily contact, but it wasn't vaginal fluid. As I stated previously, this alleged sexual assault had happened on June 17th of 2014, and then on June 18th of 2014, very, very early in the morning, is when he pulled over Janie Liggins. So there could be some skin samples on there, if he did indeed search this woman. But there was no DNA evidence linking him to Janie Liggins. And as much as people would believe, there's practically no way that you can get out of a DNA profile. And even in 2014, we had DNA profiling systems that would prove something like that. But I do believe that there was a very strong miscarriage of justice saying that they found vaginal fluid DNA on Daniel's pants. His defense attorneys even pleaded that it was secondary transfer, where Daniel's hands could have come in contact with her skin, and then if he went to the bathroom, there would be some by the zipper of his pants if he needed to relieve himself. According to an article I pulled up by the Oklahoman regarding the 17-year-old, now 18-year-old who's accusing Daniel of raping her, it reads in the following. The 13th and final accuser in the sex crimes trial against fired Oklahoma City police officer told jurors Tuesday that he raped her on her mother's front porch. She was 17 years old at the time. Quote, "He started searching me. He stuck his hands up under my shirt, under my bra, and touched my breasts," she testified. The witness, now 18, began to stutter during her testimony and began to cry. Quote, "After he searched me, he kind of turned me around and bent me over the chair," she said. A few people in the audience could be heard sniffling through her testimony. Quote, "I knew I was in trouble," the woman said. "Were you scared?" the prosecutor asked. "Of course I was. He's a huge man," she testified. Prosecutors allege Daniel Holtzclaw drove the woman to her mother's home while he was still on duty late June 17th of 2014 and illicitly touched her breasts and genitals before forcing her to submit to sex. A lead detective in the case testified the woman's DNA was found inside and outside of Holtzclaw's pants. Holtzclaw denies anything sexual happened. Earlier in the trial, Holtzclaw's attorney contended that the DNA was transferred there following a non-sexual contact with the woman. The accuser testified Tuesday that she interacted with Holtzclaw twice on June 17th of 2014. She said nothing sexual happened during the first interaction. She testified that she was with two friends who were arguing when Holtzclaw made contact with them. She said he found a warrant for her and told her to take care of it before she turned 18 years old. A detective in the case noted during her testimony Tuesday that the warrant was for trespassing. Later that day, Holtzclaw made contact with the woman again as she walked to her mother's house northwest of Oklahoma City, she testified. She said Holtzclaw drove her to her mother's home. Once they arrived at the home, Holtzclaw let her out of the back seat and followed her to the enclosed front porch of the house, she testified. She told the jury that Holtzclaw didn't believe that she lived there because nobody was home and she didn't have keys to enter the residence. The woman testified Holtzclaw illicitly searched her and threatened her with jail while they stood on the porch. She testified he then raped her. Assistant District Attorney Gaylord Geiger asked the woman why she didn't tell the police, and she said, "What's the good of telling on the police? What kind of police do you call on the police?" End quote. Like most of the accusers, she didn't report the abuse until detectives investigating Holtzclaw reached out to her. That is when they grabbed the DNA sample. So with this case, this is the conundrum that I find myself within. You have people who have accused this man of raping, orally sodomizing them, and everything else under the blue sky. But the issue is with the women and their stories being almost the exact same. like with Terry Morris and Janie Liggins, that they only had his penis in their mouth for around 10 seconds. And this is sworn affidavits, which have a crime if you lie inside of a federal court. But why would they want to have Daniel be the scapegoat? Why would they even file these police reports against an officer that pulled them over and let them go? That weren't going to be facing any legal charges regarding whether or not they were on drugs or whether or not they had a driver's license or insurance. That's the part that really gets to me. Because personally, when it comes to murder and such, I usually do cases that have an ultimatum to the end. My issue with sometimes covering unsolved cases is the fact that I don't want to paint a target on someone's back that isn't warranted. That's why I've never really done a cold case. But it does make you wonder, why Daniel, of all these people? They even had a former girlfriend of Daniel's who testified that he never exhibited sexually aggressive or inappropriate behavior around her. But then why would Daniel lie about trying to have sex with his girlfriend? To me, some of these things just aren't adding up. Because there's no DNA evidence from Janie Liggins, and there's no DNA evidence linking him to anybody else but the 17-year-old girl, Adara Gardner. Daniel's trial lasted roughly 6 weeks. The jury went into deliberation for about 4 days, and when they came back, they held Daniel's life in their hands.
All right, the verdict seemed to be in proper order. This is in the District Court of Oklahoma County, State of Oklahoma, the State of Oklahoma versus Daniel K. Holtzclaw, case number CF 2014-5869. Verdict, count 1, sexual battery. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do upon our oaths find as follows. Defendant is guilty of the crime of sexual battery and set punishment at 8 years. Count 2, procuring lewd exhibition. Not guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition. Count 3, burglary in the first degree. The defendant is not guilty of the crime of burglary in the first degree, nor lesser included. Count 4, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years. Count 5, procuring lewd exhibition. Defendant is guilty of the crime of procuring lewd exhibition, and punishment is set at 5 years.
I could play that audio in its entirety, but it's roughly about 7 minutes long. You see Daniel sitting with his defense team, and on December 10th of 2015, which was actually Daniel's 29th birthday, the jury found Daniel guilty on 18 of the 36 crimes that were alleged against him. Later on sentencing, on January 21st of 2016, Daniel was handed down the sentence of 263 years behind prison, all terms ranging from 5 years to 30 years, and all of them to run consecutively. Daniel's legal team requested a new trial on January 20th of 2016, but that request was denied almost immediately by a judge. However, they did appeal his conviction, considering that they thought that there was evidence that was being held against them that could prove Daniel's innocence. But in a unanimous opinion on August 1st of 2019, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals had denied Daniel Holtzclaw's appeal. The ruling, which was written by Judge Dana Kuhn, rejected the appellant's attorney's claims of insufficient evidence and also improper procedure for bundling all 36 charges together. The opinion denigrated allegations of a circus atmosphere, noting that the jury returned not guilty verdicts on half of the charges. The presiding judge, David B. Lewis, had also referred to Daniel as a sexual predator. When it comes to his former colleagues and other officers, in a statement released by the Oklahoma City Police Chief Bill City reads in part, quote, "We are satisfied with the jury's decision and firmly believe that justice was served." Daniel had appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States, but on March 9th of 2020, the Supreme Court denied to hear Daniel's appeal. As of right now, Daniel is behind bars. Do I honestly think that he could have done this? I don't rightfully know. There are many podcasts and many other shows that have covered Daniel Holtzclaw. This was one that I personally wanted to do because I didn't know how I felt about it. There were claims that one of the people who was testifying on the stand was actually high on PCP at the time of her testimony. There was the DNA evidence. There is a lot of questions regarding this case, and as I've said before on the show, I know that a prosecution does not like to have their case overturned because that's a very big dark mark on their record. To this day, Daniel still professes his innocence. His sister is also one of the most outspoken about Daniel's innocence. He has done interviews with various outlets and various podcasts about why he is innocent and why he feels that this is a grave miscarriage of justice. But I don't know how I feel. I try to look at the evidence and everything that's in front of me, and there were some misstatements. There were some confusions of character, with Janie Liggins saying that it was somebody with blonde hair. But a part of me wonders why one cop would try to outdo another cop and get a conviction against them. Do I think that Daniel could have done these things? Absolutely. Because there are a lot of police officers who will use their power to try to get something from the people that they're sworn to protect and serve. But do I think that Daniel did all of these things? I don't rightfully know. I'm torn on this one. Usually I like to wrap everything up in a nice, neat little package, but with this one, as it stands right now, Daniel will be spending the rest of his life behind bars unless there's some new evidence that's brought forward that can warrant a full appeal and a new trial for all of his convictions. But that's going to do it for this episode. I understand that this one was relatively long and used a lot of audio clips, but I think that with this case it was very important to hear what Daniel admitted to what he was being accused of. It's still very mind-boggling to me. But I do thank you for joining me on this episode. If you enjoyed the show, and you have the capabilities, be sure to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It truly helps me out more than you could ever imagine. And also, there is a link in this episode for the web store where you can buy yourself a brand new Murder and Such shirt. And shirts, hoodies, and everything else are currently on sale. So grab them while you can. Some designs will be limited. But be sure to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Murder and Such. And if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, the PlayStation Network, and Snapchat at Huntor27. And of course, I want to thank my executive producers at the $5 level, which are Casey Jones, Jason W., Michelle Davis, Caitlin Poehler, Strictly Homicide Podcast, Angel Renee, the Bama Brew Review Podcasts, Aaron Albertson, Michelle Pierce, Jack Stoyron, Martha Pierce, Justin Reebsum, Nikki, McKenna Johnson, Ariel Safir, Tracy Ford, Stacy Jenks, Dan Sheridan, Benjamin Welch, Ashley Collier, Charkley Daniels, Erica Summers, Ashley Black and Tech Support, Danielle Longamore, Heather Wright with Nature vs. Narcissism and Status Penning Podcasts, Big Daddy Thick Dick, Sarah Thompson, Dakota Curtis, and I kind of feel like a douchebag about this because for the longest time I thanked another executive producer and I mispronounced her last name. So hopefully I get it right this time. Thank you very much, Alex Aguirre. But if you'd like to join the show and donate to the show at just the $1 level or the executive producer level at $5 per episode, you can find that at patreon.com/murder and such, where you can get the show early, ad-free, and get additional little perks, including a forever 30% off merch discount. So thank you again to all of my patrons. Thank you for dropping a 5-star review on the show. I hope that everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. But as always, I am your host, Hunter of Murder and Such, and I'm reminding you to wash your filthy goddamn hands, wear a mask, call somebody that you love today, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.